Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rehash, a Web3 podcast. Today, I have the very special privilege of speaking with Luca Netz, founder of Pudgy Penguins, about how to take crypto to the mainstream, strategies for building for longevity, and Luca shares some alpha on the biggest mistake NFT projects and crypto founders across the board make that result in the demise of their project. Pudgy Penguins is an NFT PFP project on Ethereum that was originally launched in July of 2021 and later purchased by Luca in April of 2022 for 750 ETH, which was the equivalent to around 2.5 million USD at that time. I purchased my Pudgy Penguin about a week or two after the project launched, and it was my Twitter profile pic and honestly my whole crypto identity for a good part of 2021, to the point where I was meeting people at conferences who had no idea who I was until I showed them my profile pic. So this is a really exciting episode for me personally, but also for everyone else. Pudgy Penguins was really the only, and is really the only NFT project to have reached the mainstream in any meaningful way, with their figurines and plushies now being sold in Walmart stores across the country. And they'll be debuting a couple of new things soon, namely Overpass and Pudgy World, which Luca also shares a bit about at the end of the episode. Overpass is a tool that makes it easy for holders of Pudgy Penguins NFTs to license their NFT for physical products like plushies, and Pudgy World allows collectors of the toys to bring their toy into the digital world, stack up traits to earn certain status positions, play games with other penguin holders, and interact as their penguin in a virtual world. Luca shares so many insightful learnings in this episode that can be applied not only to NFT projects specifically, but also to crypto projects across the board. If you're a Pudgy Penguins holder, you will absolutely love this episode. And if you work in crypto in any capacity, I think you'll be able to learn something new from Luca that you can put into practice straight away to help you find success in this industry. Luca was nominated by Peter Pan and voted onto the podcast by Meg Lister, Andy Boyan, and myself, Diana Chen. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Luca Netz. Luca Netz, welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here as a Pudgy holder from day one. This is a very meaningful episode to me personally, and I'm sure to a lot of our listeners as well. So welcome to Rehash.
I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you so much for taking the time. So I know you've done a million podcasts and there's so much information about you out there already, but I just want to kind of get a brief background from you and kind of hear from your perspective when you first made that bid to purchase Pudgy Penguins. I've heard you speak on it in the past, and I know you kind of did it on a whim. You were kind of like, YOLO, whatever, like, let's just put in a bid, and you ended up winning it. So you bid, I believe it was $2.5 million for Pudgy Penguins, and you won. What made you even throw out that bid on a whim?
It was an unconscious decision, and the current bid for Pudgy Penguins was about 500 ETH. So I thought, what about a 50% bump? I was ready to go exponentially higher because I kind of did the math and gauged the opportunity. And I thought, well, this thing's obviously worth more than that, but we'll start there. And it was the offer that was taken and ultimately the offer that was accepted and what we ended up paying for it. But it was a very unconscious decision that was off of the backs of me leaving Sedona, which is a strange vortex in the country, as they call it. I had consulted a group of friends for about 5 minutes before I did it. And within a couple of days, I was starting to draft paperwork around the deal.
I have heard there's a lot of strange energies and a lot of the crystal stuff and all of that there. So maybe it just something possessed your body and your mind to do it. How did Pudgy Penguins land on your radar in the first place, though?
It landed on my radar through my Twitter feed. I saw it. I immediately sent it to the same group chat that I consulted the purchase with. I sent it to the same group chat and I said, this is the next big thing. This is a no-brainer. People are going to eat this up. And they were, 0.05, 0.1 Ethereum at the time. I bought a ton. Within a week later, my 0.1 Ethereum went to 4 ETH, and that just made me honestly fall in love with PFP NFTs. Before then, I hadn't really believed in the whole PFP model, but Pudgy Penguins to me was it. I think ultimately, if you go back to that time, the community, the memes, the culture behind it, it was bar none. It was a different energy that you can only experience if you have a Pudgy Penguin. Specifically, that moment in time was so unique because everything was so new that it hit all of the necessary ingredients, as I may call it, that I felt like yielded a successful NFT project. And time showed that it had the necessary ingredients to get there. All it needed was the right chef in the kitchen to cook it up. And here I am, Chef Luca.
Describe that a little bit more for people who weren't around back in that day during the early days of NFT PFP projects. What was it? What were those necessary ingredients you saw in Pudgy Penguins that other projects? Because back then there were so many PFP projects. Like that was peak PFP project day. Like Cool Cats were really big for a while. Obviously, you have your Bored Apes. Other smaller projects like World of Women kind of exploded for a little bit as well. What were those necessary ingredients you saw in Pudgy Penguins that you didn't see in the other projects?
Yeah, so I think if you understand the history of Pudgy Penguins, you understand its historical significance in getting Web3 where it is today. If you peel back the layers, Pudgy Penguins was the first net neutral, cute PFP that ever hit masses. It was printed in the New York Times. It was all over every news station for like a week straight. The headline wasn't Bored Ape and it wasn't CryptoPunks. It was Pudgy Penguins all over CNBC. And so the marketing exposure that it got, I think, was bar none. The buy-in from Stephen Curry and the top venture investors and the top crypto traders, and whether it's the DeFi, super whales, it just had that affluent buy-in that you honestly can't manufacture. You either have those people a part of your community or you don't. And CryptoPunks is a perfect testament to this. But at the end of the day, you live and die by two core things over the course of time. And that is, your historical provenance, your community, and maybe how the art resonates. So probably three things. And so one, affluent base, traders, executives, celebrities, mass market exposure that an NFT project could only dream of, it got. Secondly, from a brand building perspective, coming from the world of traditional brand building, understanding that it was not boxed in. A Pudgy Penguin honestly could be anything. And it was so net neutral in the aspect that it could identify with every gender, every ethnic group, every interest, and every professional out there that I think yielded a ton of upside. I am the core target demographic for somebody who buys a Bored Ape, right? I'm a young, crypto savvy, successful, drive nice cars, like nice things. Like Bored Apes are like positioned for somebody like me, but a Pudgy Penguin's positioned for somebody like me. It's positioned for somebody like you. It's positioned for a slew of other people where necessarily, I don't know if a Bored Ape resonates with you specifically, right? And so it gives a lot of room for growth and a lot of room for opportunity. And I kind of call it boundless scalability. And I think that puts us in a really unique position to win. The third one is the culture that was built around Pudgy Penguins. This culture was not a culture built around utility. It was not a culture built around what's coming next. It was a culture built around memes and good times in the Discord and people getting to know each other and building relationships. And I think when you look at what has made PFP projects, or at least the couple that have seen huge success, that was a core delineating factor. And so on one side, you have this affluent user base. Secondly, you have this universal IP. Third, you have this culture. And then fourth, you have, this might sound silly, but you have what I consider a magical IP. And why I consider it a magical IP and why I think I categorize it as that is because Pudgy Penguins, out of any NFT project in the world, and I'll stand by this, and I think people who know, encompassed a series of FUD that is bar none to any NFT project ever. And so everything that was meant to destroy the Pudgy Penguin failed. And at its worst moment since its inception, the lowest floor price it hit was like a 0.5 ETH floor, which for most would be a huge accomplishment if they achieved that. And so what did that tell me? People were not buying the Pudgy Penguin for any future utility. They were buying the Pudgy Penguin because they loved it, because I am my penguin and my penguin is me, and I want to grow my huddle with more penguins. Again, that comes back to the culture. And so when you just look at all of those ingredients and you look at a CryptoPunk and you look at a Bored Ape and you think about what made those projects great and you look at a Pudgy Penguin, you're like, well, this has all of the ingredients that those guys had. And honestly, a couple other ingredients like the FUD ingredient and being so battle tested that they don't. And that's what just, I think, sets you up for what I believe to be a legacy IP, not only in the Web3 space, but also in the real world, but also a backbone of what I believe to be blockchain and internet culture. Those are the hard things. Those are the things you can't formulate. Those are the things that you either have or you don't. They either exist or they don't. And I firmly believe this, by the way. If I never took over Pudgy Penguins to me would have followed its Doge trajectory one day. That thesis would have rallied and would have rallied itself. All I'm doing is I'm expediting the process and the greatness that is the Pudgy Penguin by making more people see it, more gifts, more content, more toys, more touch points for people to become familiar with this mimetic prophecy that is the Pudgy Penguin. And the more that I can proliferate the IP, the more I expedite what I call that mimetic prophecy. And so it's coming, but that's what I would kind of quantify as the ingredients as to what is necessary to really hit that pinnacle status that I believe Pudgy Penguins will eventually hit.
That universal culture part really resonates with me. And it reminds me of my conversation with Hudson Jameson, our guest on last week's episode, who's an Ethereum OG. And he was talking about some of the differences between the Ethereum community and the Bitcoin community in the early days. What you were just saying reminded me a lot of that, with Pudgy Penguins being different in the way that they resonate with people universally. They resonate with somebody that looks like you. They resonate with somebody that looks like me. Whereas you really can't say that for a community like Bored Apes, which I'm not part of. And there's a reason for that. And there's a reason why, they've gotten some backlash about their community being a little homogenous, because it is. And I think because they want it to be too. I think they want it to be exclusive to a certain group of people. They don't want to bring in everybody like Pudgy does. Going back to the community bit, you were handed a community, and I think that presents itself with a whole other set of challenges than building a community from scratch. Did you experience that at all? I mean, it sounds like from what you're saying that you were happy with the community you were handed, you were happy with the culture that had already been built. But was there anything when you took charge of Pudgy Penguins, anything that you wanted to change about the community, or any challenges you found in terms of taking over an existing community versus building one from scratch?
Yeah, I think my objective when I first came in was really just building trust. How do I make these people trust me? I didn't want to change anything. I really just wanted to empower the existing group. Now, obviously, the nature of communities, not everybody agrees with the mayor of whatever community you're a part of. And, obviously we see some people leave, we see some people join. I think my job is really just to nurture and to commit to pursuing the North Star, which is creating a brand and an IP that tens of millions of people know and love. And I think everything will fall into place if we can accomplish that. I actually believe buying into a community, which is kind of what I did, sets a unique set of advantages over creating one. I think creating one, especially if you yield some sort of financial return off of the creation of that community, i.e. through mints, I just see it like whenever times have gotten tough within the Pudgy Penguin community and things were looking maybe bearish or dismal, it just happens. It's the nature of just cycles
Yeah.
and things like that. You can look at the chart and imagine when those moments occurred. Nobody was pointing fingers at me and was like, you took from me, right? That lever that I've seen be pulled by a lot of other community members and other communities couldn't be pulled against me, because from a dollar perspective, I am the most invested person in Pudgy Penguins by a dollar spend. And so if we're failing, I promise you, I'm feeling it way more than you're feeling it. When you take in my time, my opportunity costs, and the actual dollars that we spent purchasing it, like nobody needs to see this succeed more than me. And I think that puts me on a really interesting playing field so that when things are tough, we can empathize with each other together, versus I think an existing relationship with a lot of communities is that empathy is only really like one-sided, where the founder empathizes with the community members who are doing bad, but the founders have been elevated in such an amazing way. And that's the nature of business. And that's the nature of what you do when you sign up for these things. I just think in the depths of a bear, which is basically since I took over, I haven't seen a bull market really, except for like maybe 3 weeks of a bull market. And then ever since I took over, it's been down only. I think in a bear that has yielded me a really strong advantage. In a bull, it is what it is. But in a bear market where everybody's down bad and like pissed off, I'm right there with you, man. I'm in the same boat as you. And that's the thing about a community, right? Like a community is not a hierarchy. It's not a dictatorship. A community is a democratic process of people who are aligned in some greater vision, whether that's building a safe home or environment for their friends or family or whatever the purpose of your community is. And so like me being in the situation that I'm in, I can see eye to eye with everybody who's a part of this ecosystem. And I think that has yielded us a really big advantage, at least in these last 18 months, why we've probably been the best performing NFT project in the bear market for all of these reasons is because I think there's just that understanding. And with that understanding, I push myself to my absolute entrepreneurial limit. I told the team and I told the community as a joke, but from December 15th to January 7th, nobody reached out to me because I've been 7 days a week for the last 20 months with maybe like 1 or 2 days scattered out throughout the 20 months where I took a break. But I need to like reset because I'm definitely starting to feel it.
Yeah, Hudson talked a lot about this on the last episode too, about burnout in crypto. And he's somebody that experienced that firsthand. He was working full time at the Ethereum Foundation from 2016 until basically 2021, like 5 years, and then got super burnt out, landed in a mental hospital twice, and that's not a place that we want to get to. So taking care of yourself is super, super important. So I support that fully. I don't know how many of you know this about me, but my path to podcasting and Web3 was actually quite nonlinear. From being a lawyer to a travel blogger to a podcaster and so many other little things in between. Because of this convoluted journey, I've always struggled with how to tell my full story via traditional means like a resume or LinkedIn bio, and I always felt there was so much context missing from these mediums that probably left any potential client or employer reading it totally confused about who I am or what I can offer. So while I absolutely love certain aspects of being self-employed, like being my own boss and being able to set my own schedule, there are other aspects that have been a constant source of frustration, like the fact that existing apps and tooling don't seem to be built for self-employed people at all. That's why I'm so excited about Quest, a new platform that lets me record all of my contributions on-chain, decide which projects I want to showcase, and take control of my professional identity. To follow along with our Rehash quests and check out my profile, you can sign up at quest.com/DC so you never miss an episode and create your own Quest profile today. Looking ahead then to the bull market, I guess, what are your plans for maintaining this kind of culture through the bull market? We're going to get more people coming in speculating about prices, not really understanding the history of Pudgy Penguins, not understanding the culture, and trying to do something else with it. How do you plan to manage the community through the next bull market when things get a little more chaotic, people get a little more greedy with money and trading and things like that? Have you thought ahead to that point yet?
Yeah, like at the end of the day, the North Star for Pudgy Penguins has been unequivocally clear since day one, and it will continue to be clear. And I think one of the things we've done really well up until this point is manage expectations. You know exactly what you're getting when you're buying a Pudgy Penguin, regardless if the floor price is 1E or 5E or 100E. It is the same roadmap and the same thesis, and you either believe in that or you don't. Now, a bull market environment obviously yields more exciting utilities and value propositions that you can dish out to your community because the market conditions allow it, like airdrops of maybe the antagonist character or other things that I think are just super exciting that can only be accomplished through this vehicle of having collectors that own your NFT. And that will probably lead to speculation, like what's the floor price of this airdrop going to be or whatever. And that I think is just the fun of NFTs, and that comes with it. But at the end of the day, the expectation is the expectation, and I will never change it. The North Star has been the North Star since day one. And as we're going to create a brand that tens of millions of people know and love. And if we accomplish that, and when we accomplish that, everything else will fall into place, right? Like there's only 8,888 Pudgy Penguin NFTs, which are our first editions, which you can monetize and license and interact and get all the experiences and all the airdrop or the utility, whatever it may be. Like that is your vehicle for that. And you have your little Pudgies, which is maybe your cheaper entrants or second editions to our first editions, and our fishing rods that amplify the whole ecosystem. So from our perspective, as long as I keep the expectation, and then we'll be fine, right? Like I'm not going to go pivot this company into do something that we're not. We're going to experiment. We are going to stay nimble and do things that I think are exciting and keep people on their toes. The one thing I don't want to be is too predictable. I felt like at one point in this journey, we were a little too predictable. So I wanted to shake it up a little bit. But at the end of the day, that's the expectation. You either believe a digital first edition collectible that has all of these value propositions. And if you either believe in that vision or you don't, and if you don't, then make sure you have a plan. And when you get into our ecosystem, figure out what your plan is when you get in, when you get out. And if you do, then I'm excited to have you along with the ride. And one of the things that we want to accomplish is, I'm a firm believer that if crypto wants to hit this escape velocity that I think everyone wants it to hit, that the narrative has to be pivoted from this institutional trader FOMO culture and reality that basically drives crypto to a consumer facing reality. And if you look at what it means to be a consumer facing industry and what it means to make consumer facing products, I think Pudgy Penguins is, if not the leader, one of the top 3 leaders in this entire industry, NFTs, crypto, whatever it may be, in terms of really attracting and making this space less taboo and less intimidating to the average person. That's really what we want to be for this culture. When IBM first made the computer was great. It was working, and they kept on making it smaller and smaller. But the computers never hit escape velocity until Macintosh came and made it a consumer-facing industry, right? And so the idea is how do you take this technology, this idea of digital ownership, which is clearly and obviously the future. I mean, if you can't see that future, then I'd really encourage you to meditate or go out and look at the sunset and really think about that, because more and more people are getting iPhones and smartphones, and more people are spending more hours every single day stuck to this screen. And the idea that you should own your digital products and your digital assets, and you should be able to own the transactions that you conduct, is a basic human right and is pretty obvious. We just haven't really fully adopted that curve yet. So I think the market opportunity here is one day going to be in the trillions, probably within 10 years going to be in the hundreds of billions. All you've got to do is make sure that you meet consumers where they are today, right? I think the idea is too many people are waiting for the consumer to come. And we have a motto at Pudgy Penguins, which is we want to create mass adoption. We don't want to wait for it. And so the idea is like this underlying baseline to this thesis. That will be the thesis. Every day we take a step forward in that direction. Every day we get more tens of millions of views. Every day we get more thousands of followers. Every day we sell more thousands of toys. And every day more and more people are falling in love with the Pudgy Penguin. And once that number becomes big enough, you have this finite amount of first edition and second edition digital collectibles on the bottom of your funnel that are the origin story of this all. They are a finite supply. I can't edit them. I can't adjust how many of those exist. And at the top of the funnel, you have a brand that tens of millions of people know and love, and the rest does itself. Our focus is really just shipping products and experiences that people love, managing expectations, bringing as much value to our community as possible through a slew of utilities that we can quantify in any which direction, and how they speculate and how they ideate on all those things. At the end of the day, those are things I can't control. What I can control is those numbers going up, those toys being sold, those licensing deals being dished out. And I'll let the free market decide what the free market wants to say.
Yeah, I think hearing you explain your thinking around all of that kind of answers a lot of my questions around why pursue toys for Pudgy Penguins. And I know you've got a background in toys as well, but with your goal of reaching consumers where they're at today, we're not going to do that through NFTs alone. We need something that's a little bit more tangible, a little bit more relatable for people who aren't in crypto yet. But more specifically about the toys, when did you know that toys was the route that you wanted to go versus something like merch, which is what most people default to, or something else? Like, why was toys the play that you thought was going to proliferate Pudgy Penguins into the mainstream?
It was just natural to me. When I closed my eyes and I just pictured Pudgy Penguins, and I can tell you what I see. I mean, take the word vision literally. Like when I tell you my vision and when I actually envision what it is to see Pudgy Penguins 5-10 years from now, I see toys, I see collectibles, I see movies, I see TV shows, I see all of these things. And when we first got into this business, we bought the business with no money in the bank. And so one of the things that I'm most proud about is we've accomplished all of this success with pretty much $0 up until we had our seed round where we raised $9 million. And obviously things have taken a huge turn upward since then. But we got there for 12 months with basically not a single buck in the bank account and doing it by the strap of our boot. And so when in that process of doing things with basically no money, my first priority is like, well, how do we make money? Well, Gel Blaster, which is our company before this, is a 9-figure toy business. So toys seem like low hanging fruit. I know I can get that in retail distribution. Retailers have loved me for the last couple of years because we've come in there and we've yielded huge successes for them. And so I knew I could leverage our Rolodex and our skill set and our experience to drive one successful pattern forward. And that was probably the first immediate step. But there's many steps that come after this. I think a lot of people, kind of misinterpret the purpose of toys. Just to be clear, toys first and foremost to me is a marketing vehicle. It is proliferation in places that crypto and blockchain has never been able to proliferate, right? It is exposure and awareness where no other NFT or no other Web3 or blockchain or crypto project has ever been. And it is touching a mass audience that I think is imperative for us to succeed. One of the moats that I'm looking to create with Pudgy Penguin when I'm looking at the historical significance of the project is I really want to just be crypto's first ever true mass market product. Not like a Ledger or, some Coinbase app. Like those are mass market products to utilize and to bring people in. And it's an inwards facing mass market product, but it's not an outwards facing mass market product. And so like by definition, I think what we're achieving at Pudgy Penguins is really achieving that, which is this first ever character that is single-handedly trying to bring millions of people into this industry. Because as you know, every toy comes with a QR code and it kind of onboards people into the blockchain without them knowing. So that's kind of how I'm thinking of things. Toys was an obvious first step based on our experience. And I'm glad that we did it when we did, because now everyone's doing it, but those things take a long time. So we've got a little bit of a first mover advantage.
Did it feel risky to you at all? I know you come from a toy background, and so I'm sure that gave you a lot of confidence having successfully built a toy company in the past. You understand the toy industry, but in the sense of, I guess, like, did anybody give you any grief or complain that what you were doing with toys was not Web3 native and therefore not something that we need in the Web3 community? And then also, as you were talking earlier, I was thinking, putting toys in a demographic like children and parents in a group that is traditionally not most likely to enter into the crypto space, did that feel risky too? Like, oh, they won't understand what this is because they're just like way too far removed from it?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting. I like that you bring that up. I'll answer the second question first and the first one after. Crypto has been played with this bro culture, and it's great. Again, like look at me. If you came into my house and you went around my driveway, you'd be like, okay, I'm bro culture personified. I get it. But at the end of the day, as you grow older and as you mature, and as I've found, I'm only 25, but who I was when I was 22 to who I am today has been a huge shift. And I'm probably sure when I'm 28 and 30, it'll be an even bigger shift. But you start to like realize what matters in life. These things that I think the bro culture has been built around actually to me mean less and less every single day. And you'd be surprised, but a lot of people in the crypto space, at least the ones that I've seen find huge success, they're family oriented. They're about bringing the family together and sharing relationships. If it's not with their family, with other friends and other family members and nieces and nephews and sons and daughters. And at the end of the day, like if this space is really going to thrive, it needs to be more than a bro culture. It needs to be more than, a group of people speculating on assets and treating this like the term is degenerates, right? Like it just has to be more than that. And there's a beautiful part of that degen culture that will always be there. And that is the backbone of crypto. But if you want us to evolve and you want to address a bigger market cap and hit a higher TAM, you're going to have to start going where other people are. And that's going to the women audience and to the family audience and to the younger generation. And when you look at Web3 and its purpose, Web3 is not going to be native to maybe us today. It's really going to be truly native to the kids. And so the kids that are growing up, the people that are 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, they're the people that if we succeed and if we do our job, just the greater builder community of this industry, then they're going to grow up Web3 native. And you've got to get them familiar now. If you believe in a Web3 future and a blockchain future, thinking of the future is thinking of the youth. And there has never been a product in this industry that has appealed to that demographic. And so, like, what do you really want out of this space? Do you really want to build a future powered by blockchain, powered by digital ownership and digital accessibility? Do you really want that? Because if you want that, you'll support Pudgy Penguins because that's what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I'm tired of this short-term horizon and this desire for short-term gratification at the compromise of long-term joy. I mean, this industry, it literally personifies that analogy to a T. It is the king of thinking about short-term gratification and not about long-term success. And I think our model, though we're not meeting the bros where they are today, I think people that have a certain level of consciousness and a certain level of savvy understand that what we're doing is really setting us up for a bigger and better tomorrow. And that, I think, is really our primary focus. The nature of what we did at Pudgy Penguins is we bought this project. I can only look at this from a 5 to 10 year horizon. I can't just leave tomorrow and have a huge lump sum of funds that I can go take to the Bahamas and go retire and have a great time. There's a slew of project founders in which that would apply. I am not in that bucket. I'm probably one of maybe 2 or 3 people in a bucket where we have to be here for 5 to 10 years from now. And this is our calling card. And so looking at it from that horizon, I thought this was the perfect fit. I thought this was the perfect angle. And ultimately, I think a lot of people are agreeing with that decision.
For other NFT projects that maybe haven't reached escape velocity like Pudgy Penguins has and wants to get to where you guys are, without copying your playbook exactly, what advice do you have for them to succeed in the same ways that you have?
Well, just to be clear, we are nowhere close to escape velocity. I think, we've done a good job, but the job is so far from finished. I think the best thing that we've done is just set that expectation. I did this thing early on where I talked to every major project and I asked them, I said, where did you go wrong, if anywhere? Like, if there's anything you would take back, and this is like really important alpha for anybody who's interested in this business. The common denominator across every single one was managing expectations better. On one side, hyper speculation leads to these huge price appreciation moments, which gets everyone excited. It gets your community worshiping you like a god and like a king, and nothing has been better. And then the second the speculation is managed with reasonable expectations, the dump ensues. And then now you are the devil. You are hell incarnated into a human being. You are a scammer and you are fraud. And that's the one thing you want to avoid, like the plague. You want to avoid that thing like the bubonic plague or like COVID-19 when we all thought it was way worse than it actually was. This steady incremental growth is really where you want to go, because I think that just yields, again, long-term success. Crypto loves this, right? Loves tomorrow, one day being 1 ETH, and the day after being 5, and the day after being 10, and then 20. And then just what happens is somebody on the other side of that gets burned. It becomes a disaster. Everyone's in free fall. Chaos ensues. And so does the longevity of that project or that IP die with it. And that, I think, is the core fundamental problem. So my advice to anybody who wants to build in this space would really just be manage expectations. Because for me, for some reason, some whale goes and buys Pudgy Penguins and it's worth $100,000 a piece. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I've managed the expectation. I've told you guys over and over what we're getting into, what we're signing up for, what we want to be a part of, and what we want to represent. And that doesn't leave any room for people to really get upset, which the mental toughness part of this business is the hardest part, right? The second you start getting bullied, and I've seen it time and time again with founders, is the second you just want to check out and then you're done. And I can't blame people, right? I've seen founders work their tail off for 6 months, do everything they said in the roadmap that they were going to do, every expectation, because floor price went below the price the person bought it at. They are a scammer and they are fraud. No one wants to wake up in the morning being called that, when at the end of the day, you did everything you could to lead it with integrity. And it's basic human nature. 99% of people are going to check out when that stuff starts happening. That's not them being a fraud. That's just them being human. And so that, I think, is the best advice that I could give you. And I'm glad that I naturally was able to figure that out. And hopefully I can help some founders in the future.
I think that's great advice, not just for NFT projects, but for crypto projects across the board. I've seen so many crypto companies that have nothing to do with NFTs get burned by their community because expectations weren't managed. The community didn't understand what was actually the goal, what was the vision that they were supposed to be behind. And They hopped on just for price speculation primarily. And so the second the founder makes one mistake, the community member turns on them completely. So yeah, I think that's excellent advice. Before starting Rehash, I was a solo creator for many years, and I often felt disconnected and lonely despite doing something I loved. With Rehash, I was seeking more connection and set out to create a community-generated podcast. Since then, I've made genuine connections with community members and fans by co-creating the show. That's why I'm so excited about Lore's launch on Base. Lore is an all-in-one platform for communities to bring their members and their funds on-chain. From there, communities hang out in a forum, crowdsource decisions, and make transactions together. Now, it's easier than ever to fund and co-create media initiatives like Rehash. Go to lore.xyz to kickstart your community initiative today. Then looking ahead to the future, you're constantly working on new stuff for Pudgy Penguins, but a couple of things that I'm really excited about as a member is Overpass and Pudgy World. Can you tell us a little bit more about where we are with both of those things and what people can expect from them moving forward?
Yeah, so I think Overpass just passed its audit. Our team members from Hong Kong just got back and they're in San Francisco now. So I think I'm going to have a discussion with them tomorrow. I mean, I know we're going to beta test it really, really soon here, and we're launching it unequivocally before the new year. There's no way we go into the new year without launching it. We were supposed to launch it last year. I'm actually so glad we didn't, because Overpass is a bull market dependent product, or it's a product that's dependent on interest in the NFT market. If there's no interest in the NFT market, Overpass doesn't solve a big problem, which Overpass basically makes licensing easy in Web3. So to give the audience some context, every product that we make at Pudgy Penguins, or at least 95% of the products that we make at Pudgy Penguins, we license from the community. And the idea is if you believe in the growth of the Web2 brand and that's succeeding, which this year the toys will do $10 million in retail sales. Next year, I wanted to do 30. If you believe in that growth pattern, you believe in our ability to grow that into a $1 billion business, you know that by owning a first edition collectible, you can participate in the growth of that brand. And so the idea is to reinvent what it is to build brands in the real world and change the narrative away from brand and consumer, which is the relationship today, and reinvent that relationship into a new one, which is brand and participant. And so this is kind of the idea as to how we're thinking and in terms of our product and our growth strategy and how our Web2 successes outside of proliferation and marketing and sustainability translate back into the NFT. We learned that licensing in Web3 is incredibly tedious and incredibly hard, and Overpass to us was a tool that we made to solve that problem. And so I just wanted to give the room some context. And then Pudgy World, also give the room some context. Every toy that we sell comes with a QR code. When you scan a QR code, you basically are taken to pudgyworld.com. At pudgyworld.com, you're instructed to put an email and a password. And we made a custody wallet solution built on ZK Sync. And so with nothing but an email and a password, we make you a blockchain wallet. You then go and redeem your traits. Your traits get you 3 to 5 NFTs that you redeem through a gasless experience. And then you put on your Pudgy Penguin. That Pudgy Penguin can then go and play around with friends. It can play mini games. They can go explore, or right now you can't really explore anything, which coming in December, the explore mode in the world will come to fruition. And so the idea is Pudgy World, I think, solves 2 problems for us as a company. The first problem is really close that loop between the unlockables and the toy and really give that definitive experience. And the second problem is really just debuting our world. 2024 for Pudgy Penguins is going to be the year of story. Like, we are really going to start telling the story of Pudgy Penguins. And the first step in that direction is giving you guys an idea as to what that world looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, and all of the things that come with it. And so I'm really excited to debut that product in December. We have a big animatic that we've been working on for a couple of months. And so you guys can really see our animation capabilities. And I'm excited to really bring that one to life.
What is the process for somebody who's a current Pudgy Penguins holder to license out their PFP for you guys to make toys and stuff like that? And then once Overpass is launched, is it going to be like a self-serve platform, or will they still have to go through some process through you guys?
Yeah, I love that you bring that up. And so right now, the process, and you know, I still encourage people to put notifications on the Pudgy Penguins Twitter, because if you do own a Pudgy Penguin asset right now, or at least in the past, it's been through Google Forms, right? We make an announcement, submit a Google form, we go through thousands of Pudgy Penguin. We pick the ones that we think have the best product market fit. And, maybe there's other variables that go into that, subconscious, like, oh, I know that community member. Oh, that's an aesthetically pleasing penguin. I mean, there's a slew of variables that are really dependent on somebody's participation and what that goes into. One thing that I was trying to get clear with our community, and I did a bad job managing this expectation back to this point, was like the utility for Pudgy Penguin is not licensing. It's a utility, and it's a utility that any project can use. And so Overpass is going to be the solution for Pudgy Penguins. And we're going to have a ton of deals because us right now, I think we're probably the most fervent licensing machine in the entire crypto space in terms of like, we have Retail Monster, we have, WME, we have us going outbound and inbound. Like we have a ton of deals in the pipeline. And so, we will be plastered all over Overpass. But I'm going to open up Overpass not only as a gift to Pudgy Penguin, but a gift to the entire industry, which is like the thesis of, hey, you have to make merchandise and you have to make products because that's what a fiscally responsible business does. Who cares about growing their top of the funnel and growing emotional attachment? To just pretend we live in this digital universe without physical products is a fool's game. And so everybody in the NFT space should be making some sort of physical good. But my call to action to them will be, when you make these physical products, just pay a community member and license it and give them a little piece of the action. There's no reason why you shouldn't. It doesn't cost you that much extra money to do it. And the idea is together as an industry, we are going to reinvent the IP business and make it a business about participation. The beauty about the NFT is an aligned incentive model. It aligns incentives in a way that's never been seen before. I am incentivized as a brand owner to make it succeed. And the holder is incentivized to help me succeed because we have aligned incentives. If the brand wins, the probability of the NFT winning is very high. It's like kind of one and the same. If you don't believe that, just look at Star Wars, look at Hello Kitty, look at Pokemon, look at everything with collectibles that go for 6, 7, 8 figures. The brand had to win first before the collectibles were worth hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. It's like a pretty obvious play. And so this aligned incentive model, there's a way to make that incentive and that alignment even better. Now, can you license every NFT in the NFT collection? Probably not, but it's the thought that counts, right? It's the idea that we are doing this together. And so we're going to open that up to the rest of the ecosystem. And that to us is going to be our gift to Web3. We are going to solve what I think is one of Web3's biggest problems to really hit true legitimate scale with licensing.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And then with Pudgy World, are you able to play with just an NFT or do you have to buy the physical collectible in order to get the
No,
QR
you
codes?
can play with nothing. The only thing is if you buy the physical toy and you unlock the traits, eventually you'll be able to get status. Eventually you'll be able to sell them on a marketplace. So the idea is like, imagine you buy a toy for $5 and you unlock 5 traits that are worth $1 each. Like that's pretty cool. You keep the physical, you can sell the digitals. That just adds exciting value propositions that the physical market just hasn't seen. So you can play Pudgy World with literally nothing but an email and a password. You just might not be able to access certain parts of it because you either don't have certain traits and we're working on also making the 8,888 integrated in there and making those really special.
Awesome. I'm going to do a quick rapid fire with you just about some Pudgy stuff. So first one, favorite Pudgy trait?
Wizard hat.
Favorite Pudgy NFT?
Shark suit.
Favorite Pudgy product?
Shark suit.
Favorite Pudgy Giphy? Shark suit.
The one like this, the one with the bowl cut.
Yeah, I love it.
Kryptonaire's bowl cut.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And then if you had to bet money on 3 NFT PFP projects being around by the next bull run, other than Pudgy Penguins, which 3 would you pick?
Bored apes. I would say penguins if it's not penguins. D-Gods, because I believe in Frank.
Okay.
I also believe in Doodles.
Hmm.
Azuki. Azuki is not going anywhere. Their community is too strong. There's like 5. You gotta can't give me 3. I mean,
Okay. 5. No, I love
apes,
it.
Trunks, D-Gods, Doodles, Azuki, Cool Cats. I know that unequivocally, those guys are gonna be around. And I know that because there's an interesting variable. If I didn't mention it, doesn't mean I don't think you're gonna be around. But I know they have the capital. I know those guys personally. I know they're not going anywhere. I know community is extremely strong, but capital is an important variable. I don't know if somebody's going to be around if you're running out of money. I know those guys won't run out of money. And I know Frank, if he ran out of money, he would stay because Frank is probably the least funded out of the bunch.
That is some good alpha. I mean, I said 3 because CryptoPunks and Bored Apes are kind of just Like, I knew you were going to say
They're
that.
obvious.
So I just wanted to hear what else you were going to say. Last question. This one is from the community. I'm going to give you 3 questions from our community and let you pick one to answer. So the first one is from Meg Lister. It's, what's your favorite crypto drama? And tell us all about it. The second one, also from Meg Lister, who would you invite on the podcast next season? And then the third question is from Flappy Abe. It is, estimate your success rate in your attempts to crypto pill your off-chain friends and family members. Paint me a word picture of your average attempt.
I'll take the third question. It'll probably be 7 to 10. I have a good conversion mechanism. I mean, at the end of the day, the ability to transact is a basic human right. The ability to communicate was a basic human right. And what happened? You used to pay for your phone calls. Now you can make a phone call with an internet connection. Just because there was a banking system for thousands of years does not mean that that's going to work for the future. There's a basic human right to be able to send money from me, Luca, to my friend in Asia, to my friend in France, without a middleman and without that taking 3 to 4 days. That is a basic human right, the same way that I should be able to call you in France or in Asia without waiting 3 to 4 days, or have some middleman charging in the middle of that. So like, crypto is inevitably going to work. You give people that pitch, it's a really hard argument to make. Yeah, people should not be able to control my money. Now, everyone tries to pitch all of these different narratives, digital gold or smart contracts, and all that stuff works. But when you're trying to pill somebody on the crypto space, you got to keep it simple. And the idea is it's a basic human right.
Well, Luca, thank you so much for taking the time to come on Rehash. Before you go, tell people where they can find you. They want to connect with you personally. And then also feel free to plug away at anything Pudgy Penguins related as well.
Follow Pudgy Penguins on Twitter. Put your notifications on. Follow Pudgy Penguins on Instagram. We're about to hit 1 million followers. You type in Pudgy in the GIFs when you're texting your friends. Use it. It's hilarious. It's fun. We're about to hit 10 billion views. We'll probably hit 10 billion views before the month is over. That's going to be super exciting. Follow me, Luca Netz, Twitter. Like my stuff. Comment. Tell me what you think. And Diana, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Rehash. Rehash is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Diana Chen, and sponsored by Quest and Lore. Rehash is also supported by our community of NFT holders who curate our guest lineup each season. To get involved, head over to our website at rehashweb3.xyz and collect this episode as an NFT. Anyone who collects an episode becomes part of the Rehash community and will be able to nominate guests for future seasons. To learn more about how to become a guest on the podcast, go to rehashweb3.xyz/podcast. And to learn more about sponsoring the podcast, go to rehashweb3.xyz/sponsor. Finally, be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at rehashweb3 or on Lens at rehash.lens. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.